Hello and welcome to Swagrid's English Comprehensive Full Tutorial of Chinese RUPM. Welcome to the RUP guide. Okay, so first things first, there's a few assumptions that I'm going to make. First off is that you basically know how to block build a 2x2x3 and you know what edge orientation is and have a pretty basic grasp of how it works. All of these things can be obtained by learning the Petrus method, which is where the first line of the description will be a link to Lars Petrus' website where he teaches his own method. That's where I learned it from, and that's where I'm going to send you to learn it if you don't already know it. If you understand, basic block building and how EO works, then, well, you're in for a treat. Let's get started. Alright, so the way this tutorial is going to work is that I'm going to describe the steps as I do them, as well as explaining some outward fringe cases in case you want to use this method on your own on any given scramble. But for the sake of ease and for this tutorial, I'm going to do an example solve. So we'll do one scramble and you can follow along. I'll explain what we're doing and it'll be a nice tutorial solve and an introduction to RUPM. So follow along with the scramble, it goes as such. Alright, and our axis for this is going to be yellow top, orange front. So our first step for RUPM matches that of Petrus. It's a 2x2x3 block. We're going to build it on the bottom left side of the cube. I put a lot of thought into this step and decided that I could just use CS timer to generate a solution for me. So follow along kids, this is what we're doing. Wham. So we have our block and now we can get into the actual exciting RUPM steps. So we're on to alien line now, which is split into two parts, EO-2 and then the alien line. Okay, so EO first, well, EO-2, and we want to approach it the same way that we would in base Petrus using sort of FUF and FRF2 flips, but of course we want to leave two edges misoriented. This scramble has four edges misoriented, here, 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 and here. Now, of these four edges, we obviously only need to orient two, and I'm just going to orient these two here. So, if you happen to be doing a different solve on a different scramble, and you finish your 2-2-3 and EO is completely solved, all seven edges fully oriented, don't worry, that's completely fine. You can keep going along with that. I'll cover a better approach for you just after this section, bear with me. So the reason I chose these two edges, well, they're already in position, they're already flipped, you can just do FRF prime to orient those, nice and simple. Okay, so now comes the corner permutation or alien line part of the step. So the first part of this is to put all of the corners that belong in the D layer in the D layer. They don't have to be in the correct position in the D layer, just in the D layer. For the scramble, they will be in the correct position as they're already next to each other and they already have headlights. So we just have to do U prime R2, and here they are in the D layer. The actual alien line part of the step consists of looking at corner color relations. One of these relationships should be different from the others, and this will be called the alien relationship. You can find it by mentally twisting corners and viewing the color relations. Let's get started on this. We don't need to mentally twist the D layer corners as they're already fully oriented. Here, by looking at these, we see that the colors are the same, so their relationship is solved, or same. So the next relationship I would look at would be up front left and up front right. So if I grab a different cube here where I can actually twist these corners, we can take a look and see that they would both be green on the front. So these would have the same solved or same relationship. So if these are same and these are same, then the aliens are probably in the back. So let's flip it around and let's take a look. If we twist these, sure enough, we get an opposite relationship, which is not the same relationship that the other pairs of corners had. So this right here, these are our aliens. So what we have to do next is collect the misoriented edges and the alien corners into one J or L kind of shape, where the main line of this shape goes across the intersection of the U and R layers. I found I would often lose track of my corners when trying to do this part. You can easily see which edges are misoriented, but remembering the alien corners is a bit harder, so I'm going to make them stand out by putting a little bit of blue tack on each of them, just so that we can tell which is which. So the first thing we're going to do here to pair these up is a U move to pair up these two pieces. As we see, this is a misoriented edge and this is an alien corner, so by pairing these up we have half of the shape that we want. We can then do an R' to bring this pair of pieces up and hide this alien corner, then a U and an R to bring this pair over and attach the corner. So now we have this line across here. So we just need to add the last edge, which we can do by bringing it over to the side, putting it down into the E slice, and then doing the U2. So here we see we have this L shape here. You could also have a J shape like this, an L shape like this, or another J shape like this. Either way, as long as you have this long bar across here and a misoriented edge attached to one of the corners. Now, in order to solve both edge orientation and corner permutation, you just have to do the standard edge orientation solution you would do in Petrus, and corner permutation will end up being solved with it. So here, F prime U F, and corner permutation will be solved. So to prove that we have corner permutation solved, I've gone through the solution on this cube as well. You can see here we have an identical state, and by placing these corners in the D layer and then twisting the remaining corners, we see they are all correctly permuted. Lovely. We can now remove the blue tack, and I'm probably going to see it again later. So now for the possible fringe cases for this step. If you have all edges oriented by chance, you can just use R and U moves to bring the alien corners to be an up back left and up back right, and do F, R prime, U, R, U prime, F prime. As you see, we all have all corners oriented, and when we put this edge back in, we now have full corner permutation. Perfect. However, if you have no alien corners at all but two edges misoriented, use just R and U moves to bring the edges to up front and up right, and do F, R2, U, R, U prime, F prime. That will orient the edges and it will keep your corner permutation. So this step uses the way that F moves interrupt edge orientation, respective to the current axis, and how any moveset that isn't pure 2gen, in this case RU moves, does the same thing to corner permutation, with respect to the same axis. So by using F moves to change edge orientation, and also manipulating corners by breaking away from 2gen RU solutions, we've elegantly tackled both edge orientation and corner permutation at the same time in one step. From here on out, we have to establish a few rules that we will never, ever break. First off, any pairs that you are supposed to make during the following steps, you will never break. You will preserve them until the cube is solved. And secondly, from here on out, you can only use R and U moves. They preserve both edge orientation and corner permutation, so you're restricted to just those two. Oh, and no full cube rotations either. So our next step is to build a 1x1x2 kind of F2L pair on the U layer. It has to consist of the up back right corner and the upright edge. On this scramble, with this solution, we happen to already have it built, so we just have to do an R2. Even if you don't have it already built, this step is very simple and intuitive to do, so I won't talk about it too much. I'm going to put some blue tack here so that I can't break this pair. So, after this, we need to create the adjacent pair out of the up back left corner and the up left edge. The given strategy for this is to have the corner that belongs in up back left be in down front right, have the corner that belongs in up left be in upright, and have this upright pair be over here. You can then do one of three algs to solve the pair. So in this solve, if I quickly blue tack the pieces that I need, we have this as the corner and this as the edge. And this blue tack here will just help us to keep track of the pieces that we need. So first off, let's try and get the corner in position. So we can do U prime, R prime to put the corner in down front right, but it's going to get disturbed and move into the U layer later in the solve if we do this, trust me. So we're going to do an R2 to leave it back here. This will work out. So to set the edge up correct relative to the pair, we need it to be over here. So by doing U, R, U2, R prime, we will have it correct relative to the pair, and that's why we needed this back here, because if it was up here, the R move would bring it into the U layer and disturb it. So, by doing U2, we can move these pairs out of the way, and an R move will bring the corner up to where it belongs, and then U will complete the setup. This is the angle we need. From here we can recognise the case we have. Because this corner is facing out to the right, we get the easiest case of doing an R and a U prime to pair the pieces up. From there we can solve it adjacent to the other pair and to the rest of the cube with R prime U2. If the corner was facing to the front, we would use R2, U prime, R prime, U to pair up the pieces. And if it was facing down, we would use U prime, R2. So now we have two pairs and they're both sat in the back, nice and comfy. Now comes the most tedious step, where we solve the third pair with down back right and down right alongside corner orientation. It isn't difficult unless you want to do it from memory, it's just tedious, because there's tables and mirrors. Don't worry, I'll walk you through this step, explain a thing or two, and teach you how to use the original GitHub website to solve this step. The first thing we need to do is bring the corners to where they belong. We do this with U prime R2. Don't worry about the pairs now both being on the left, we want that for this step. The first thing we have to recognise is the orientation of the corner in down back right. If the corner is facing out to the back, it's case 1. If it's facing down, it's case 2. If it's facing to the right, it is case 3. In this example, we have case 3. I'll write this down for ease. The next thing we have to recognise is the relation between the R stickers of the UR corners, so these two stickers here. This will be one of 3 cases, and this is how you recognise them. If both or neither of the stickers on the R face here are yellow, then your case is the yellow colour group, or yellow in the same direction on the website, which is case R. If both or neither of the stickers on this side are orange, it is the orange colour group, or orange in the same direction, which is case F. If both or neither of the stickers on R are blue and or green, it is blue in the same direction or blue colour group, which is case S. In our case, neither sticker is orange, so we have case F. So I'll write this down too. We have case 3F. The next step in the recognition is to recognise where the down right edge is. There's 3 possible possibilities. A small correction here from editor Swagrid. There are 5 possible positions. I'll just throw the table up on screen here. We have case V. So our case is 3FV. Wham. So, the way that we solve this now is by referring to the group pair rotation table to see how we solve the case. But wait, 3FV's missing. In fact, all of 3F is missing. Why is this? Well, I haven't mentioned a key part of this step, and indeed this method. Mirrors. The cube can be perfectly mirrored across the z-axis. With EO, corner permutation, and a 2x2x3 solved, this cube is a mirror of this cube. The properties stay the same, 2gen and all that, but the shapes on the cube are a bit different. But we don't actually have to rotate and do LU moves to mirror on the cube, as LU on this axis is the exact same as RU on this axis. Every L becomes a U, and every U becomes an R. So the way that we approach any of the unsolvable case, is by using an alg that will move the pairs into an equivalent position on the R layer, mirroring the cube while changing the cases for the pair, corner orientation, corner relation, edge position, all of that. So we refer to another table on the website, one called the mirror transformation table. We can find our case here, and it will tell us which of 4 mirror algs we should perform, either M, M prime, N, or N prime. If we find 3FV, it tells us to do N prime 3. But what does the 3 mean? Well, it's actually where you want the down back right corner to be when you start the ALG, and you can just get there by adjusting the R face. Think about it. You have 4 possible positions the corner can start in, so each mirror ALG can now cover 4 different cases. This drastically increases the cases covered, thus decreasing the amount of mirrors required. N'3 actually means the corner has to start in down back right, so we don't have to adjust the R face at all. The ALG for N' is as follows: U', R', U, R', U, R. Notice how neither of the pairs were broken during that. Well, now we have a new case to recognise. For the mirrored state of the cube, similar recognition rules apply, but it is a bit different. First, we have to AUF the corner that belongs in down back right to be in up back left. So now we have to recognise the new case. If the corner is facing out of the left, it is case 1, out of the top is case 2, and out of the back is case 3. So again, we have it at the back, we have case 3 again, so let's write this down. Now, instead of recognising corner orientation by the R face stickers, we recognise using the U face stickers, which would be these two. The rules for which stickers in which case are also different. Blue, green, and yellow swap. So if both or neither stickers are yellow, the case is now S instead of R, and then the opposite applies to blue, green. Since both of our U stickers are yellow, we have case S. So this is 3S. Now, the edge location table from earlier also includes the mirror cases, and as we can see, this case is Y. So our new case is 3SY. Now, we can consult the group pair rotation table and see that lo and behold, 3SY has a solution. And this table shows us the solution for both the regular state and the mirrored cube state. So here, we just have to do U2R. So we have our third pair made, our first 2 pairs, and corner orientation. To make it easier to see what we've just done, I'm going to bring the pairs back to where they belong, but not after putting blue tack on this new pair. Yes, my child, you will not be broken. So we're going to bring these pairs back with U2, R2U', R2U. As we can see, our third pair is built and our corners are all facing the same direction. Now, I say facing the same direction instead of oriented because that's actually what this step does. It doesn't necessarily orient your corners, it just means they're all facing the same way. In this case, they're all correctly oriented, but they could all be clockwise or anti-clockwise, giving you a soon or an anti-soon case on orange, and that is perfectly valid, that is fine. Now, any sane person here would just take the 3 cycle and leave, but that would break pairs, so we can't do that. So instead of taking the 3 cycle, we're going to make a 4th pair around the up front right corner. Now, we have a choice between making a pair with the yellow-orange edge or the yellow-blue edge. However, the yellow-blue edge is already being used in a pair, so we can't actually use that. We have to use the yellow-orange edge. Now, there is something I must mention here. I claim this to be the full Chinese guide for RUPM as it teaches the full Chinese approach, but I'm gonna cop out here. You see, the reason I specified this Chinese approach is because there were 2 different guides for RUPM from the original author. One was roughly translated into English, and one written in traditional Chinese. Both were originally written and or published on July 18th, 2018. However, the English one was abandoned shortly afterwards, while the Chinese version kept getting updates until the May 14th, 2019. So with all the new approaches and new developments, the Chinese one is a lot more complex and elaborate. Up until now, every single step I've taught the Chinese approach to it due to it being more up to date. But for the next step, I can't bring myself to. The author had a fully functioning, simple, unique, and strange approach to the 4th pair in English guide, which I think is admirable. It's simple and cool and interesting. That's great. It works. It's fine. But the Chinese guide has a more reworked and elaborate and complex approach with more tables, unsolvable cases, and mirror versions. It's like a smaller version of the 3rd pair we just did. So instead of going through all of these tables again, I'm going to use this flowchart. It was created by Psych, and it's from the English guide. So, the first thing we have to do is set up the pairs to be in the correct shape. Because we already have all the pairs solved, this will always be achieved with U'(R2). But really all we need is the pairs to be in this kind of formation on the U layer. You could have something like this, and that would be completely fine. But for our case, we have this. What we've done with this is we've brought the corner that we're interested in to down front right. No matter what formation of pairs you have on the U layer, where each pair is, it will always be in down front right because we have corner permutation solved. That's just a neat property of the cube. We've also collected all 3 pairs on the U layer. So the first thing we now have to do is find the edge we're planning on pairing with our down front right corner. So if you remember, we had the choice between yellow-blue, which was already being used, and yellow-orange. So we have to use yellow-orange, which as you can see, is here in up left. The first step of the flowchart is to move the edge, wherever it may be, into up left. However, we already have it here, so we can skip that part. So with the edge in up left, all that's left is to pair it with the corner. The way that we do this is by looking at the down front right corner and figuring out which edge it has to replace, either front right or down right. In this case, it needs to replace down right, so the alg that we do is R2, U, R2, U2, R2. And here we see the pair is now built. Let me fetch my blue tack, a bit of a small piece. Alright, well, we can put the pairs back where they belong again for the ease of the tutorial with U2, R2, U2. Once again, we have a 3 cycle. Once again, we're not going to do it. Which is actually quite funny because this 3 cycle would preserve all the pairs, but we'd also use an S move, and we don't do those here. We also can't rely on encountering a 3 cycle after 4th pair because again, these corners could be oriented any which way, so you won't get this reliably. Our next step is to make a center edge pair, that is to solve either the edge in up back or back right. This will not only create a pair with the center, but it will also expand to a nearest pair, creating a 1 by 2 by 2 block. So that block will either consist of this pair for this edge, or this pair for this edge. So to pick which center edge pair you want to make is completely arbitrary, and I just fancy doing up back. So when we look at the website for how to solve the pair, it pretty much lists every case because there's so few of them. Of course, the amount of cases is increased by the fact that you could have made 2 potential 4th pairs, which will change the solutions and cases slightly. So first you find the table that corresponds to which 4th pair you made, and then you do a U' to set yourself up to be in the correct position, then you find the case. The edge, which in this case is in back right, will either be labelled as being between the new pairs, which will be in back right, the old pairs, which will be in up left, or in neither of those places, which is in front right. So, for the 4th pair that we did, and the center edge case we do U', R2, U, RU. This has solved this center edge pair here, and it's put us just 1 move away from expanding out to the 1 by 2 by 2 block that we need to create as being the goal of this step. Now that we have this, what's left is to put some blue tack on it. Well, congratulations, solver. You reached the promised land of the method. This right here is the goal step. It's what we've been trying to get to this whole time. So, this is the case that can be solved completely intuitively, foolproof, RU gen ending. Here's all you need to know. First, don't get yourself caught in a cycle, doing something like R', U, U', R over and over again. That'll get you nowhere. Secondly, do not break a single pair you've already made. And thirdly, of course, only do R and U moves. Look, you don't even have to know how to solve any of these cases. If you just keep doing moves that follow the rules, the cube will solve itself. You might encounter a dead end once, but you just have to retrace your turns. There'll be a case where you had a choice of turns and you chose the wrong one first time around. If you do the other turn, well, the cube will solve itself in time. Now, if you want to, give it a try, go ahead, do that now. If you want to see the solution, I'll show it off quickly once and then explain it again in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So, how does this make sense? Well, firstly, we need to alternate between moving the R and the U layers, because otherwise we'll get ourselves caught in a loop and we'll get stuck. So we can't do any R move here because it will break this, so we have to do a U move, and the only valid U move that won't lead to us being forced to break a block on the next turn is U2. This also happens to build this block that I would like to preserve. Now, we of course need to do an R move, because we've just done a U move and we need to keep alternating. R would lead to these pairs getting broken, R prime leads to nothing, and R2 would lead to this pair getting broken, so it has to be an R prime. And from here, you can clearly, you can see the solution, but even if we couldn't, let's pretend we're blind. Doing a U would lead to this getting broken, U2 would lead to these getting broken, but a U prime would lead to this, and then, we could theoretically do an R and then, we get stuck, we do 4 U moves and have to do an R2. That's the case, this is the dead end you could run into. So, through time you'd end up learning the correct R direction to do, and then a U. So, that's how you could theoretically solve that case, blind, even if you couldn't see a solution at a depth of 2 moves.
Well, there you have it. I tried to make it as simple and easy to follow as I could, and there is your RUPM tutorial by means of an example solve. I taught everything that Presley teaches, except that I switched out which 4th pair I teach. However, I'm now going to teach some more further theory stuff that me, Psych Error developed, as well as the proper 4th pair, so this is the further theory part of the tutorial. It's not needed for the method, it's just some more fun stuff. Before we go there though, this video took a long time to record, it was my longest session by today, and it's going to take even longer to edit, so if you could, send it to your friends, drop a like, subscribe, it would be greatly appreciated. Alright, shilling over, let's go boys.
It's also possible to do RUP color neutral, as well as any first 2 pairs, so first 2 pair neutral. Both of these are enabled by how we recognize third pair's corner orientation portion, and the pairs are also enabled by a carryover from the outdated English guide. But let's take it step by step, color neutral first. This is simple enough, just do what you would for any color neutral method. Ignore explicit colors and use color relations and cube positions. The first 2 pairs are no longer the red, blue, yellow pair, and then the red, green, yellow pair. They're the up, back, right, and the up, back, left, up, left pairs. Third pair recognition, I mentioned earlier in the tutorial. You get the blue-green color group is case R, orange group is F, yellow group is S. Well, these are actually just color relations. You just have to think about, instead of the face color or the sticker color, where that center is on the cube. The blue-green color group is just the right-left colors. The yellow is just the U face color, and the remaining orange is the F face color. So you can apply that recognition system to the third pair, and from there should not be any more challenges throughout the solve. The more fun part though is doing different pairs. So take this example solve. I'll show the Scramble 223 alien line, put those on screen now, pause for those. Alright, so we've already built a pair over here, as we can see, but it's using the wrong edge for traditional RUP, the blue one instead of the orange one, but this is workable. We can use any adjacent set of pairs, so now we just need to make the other pair that uses the other orange corner. I'm not going to try to apply the original pair building strategy because this pair's the wrong shape. We can preserve this pair and solve 2gen for an intuitive approach that stays true to the idea of RUP. So this is how I do RUP. U, R prime, U2, R prime. This will set up the edge for the next pair here. We're leaving our pair in the D layer, it's a lot harder to disturb. Usually I'll do RU spam to orient the corner, but here it's already oriented. So we can pair it up with the U prime that I've just done. We can bring both pairs to the top layer with R, U2, R. Now, we set up for third pair case with U. So here we are set up for the third pair. I had some difficulties adjusting the R face, would you believe it or not? But here it is. Our corner case is 3. Our CO case, easy enough to recognize, it's yellow color group. This wasn't affected by doing different pairs. And our edge here is case Y. So we have 3 RY, and that's solvable with U, R2, U prime. There it is. So, from here, I'm just going to place the pairs again. Oops, I just went the wrong way. So, we now have third pair solved, and here is our remaining corner. Our choices for pairs are yellow-green, which is already solved in this pair, and red-green, which is solved in the 2-2-3. And we wouldn't even be able to solve this anyway. We need red on the top, but we have green front, so if the edge stayed oriented, it would be wrong. We can't solve this without breaking edge orientation. There's no pair we can make here, so what can we do? Well, in the outdated English RUP guide, the author, Presley, he didn't want fully oriented corners after third pair. So if you've got that particular corner orientation, you would force soon or anti-soon using a move that preserves everything else, called move 8. And we're going to use that here. All our pairs are preserved, and we're going to have a different corner orientation case. And here we see, if we look for the next pair, we have yellow-green, yep, that's used, and yellow-red, which is not used. We can make that one! Yeah! So what we've encountered is an issue that comes with having edge orientation and corner orientation solved on different axes. You see, we solved the edge orientation with respect to green front and yellow top. Usually, in RUPM, when you get to this step, you can do an X rotation and see a soon or an anti-soon on this face. For us, it looks like we have a T case. That's because we didn't solve corner orientation respective to green front, yellow top. We solved it respective to orange front, yellow top, which if we do that here, and we acknowledge these reds as being part of the orange face, we have a soon. So basically, we have edge orientation and corner orientation on two different axes, and the solve now has to exist in the crux where these two meet. Sometimes you will be out of whack, and you will miss this, and using move 8 will sort of course correct and put you back in this area where these two ideas collide. Anyway, I could continue with regular RUP stuff and build the fourth pair properly, but I'm lazy, so I'm just going to use some edge swap algorithms to fix it. So I'll put this corner in the back like this, and then we'll bring it down into the front like this, and now we have the fourth pair. And we also have the center edge pair here, so we have the cool looking ending case. Yeah, solution spoilers in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hey, remember that overcomplicated version of fourth pair that I refused to cover? Yeah, let's do that. Or at least a brief summary. You need to pick which pair you want to make, either pair A using the UF corner or pair B using the FR corner. From the images on the site, you seem to be forcing either a solved or anti-soon corner permutation by having that yellow sticker on top. Either way, you set up by doing the U prime R2, then you recognize corner orientation, this down front right corner either being case 1, right, 2, down, or 3. Then you recognize the location of the desired edge and find your case in the table. We have 2 more mirror cases for unsolvable cases, so then it's a hip hip hooray, 3 more chairs for mirrors. We have this table for when to use which mirror transformation. What does shuffle another pair mean? Honestly, I don't know.